Well, thank you very much indeed. It's quite strange to be in a Summits and Horizons seminar that's 3 floors underground. That's usually about the summit I managed to ascend to. So my name is Anthony Finkelstein. I'm Professor of Software Systems Engineering, means by background I'm a computer scientist, and I'm also currently Dean of UCL Engineering. My internet persona is Professor Serious, Prof Serious, at Prof Serious on Twitter, which is, I think, slightly ironical, seeing as I really should have been at Prof Facetious, which is my normal mode of interaction. It came about because I was many years ago playing around with what was then called multi-user dungeons, which were sort of early interactive spaces on the internet, and I wanted a way to distinguish myself from those who weren't exploring it with the serious intent I felt I was engaging with the medium in, and so the name at Prof Serious came about and has stuck with me. My social media presence combines the fact that I tweet. I have a blog about which I'll speak, entitled Serious Engineering, and I'm also very active on LinkedIn, which is my chosen, another chosen social media platform, where I run a UCL Engineering group, which you can have a look at, but which I will say relatively little about. How did this come about? Well, actually, it was a conscious decision. I mean, I wasn't very engaged with social media, except as sort of computer scientist observing it with interest. It came about because I had I'd set up a Twitter account fairly early on, just to see what people were talking about, as computer scientists do. And then sometime later, somebody said to me, who I'd not met before, said, "Oh, before I met you, I checked you out on Twitter." And I thought, in which I'd actually not done very much. I mean, I'd sent a few tweets out saying, how on earth am I going to find time to do this? It really hit me forcibly that people were going to be looking for me on social media platforms, that actually I really did need to engage. And so I set out consciously to do 3 things: to tweet, to run the LinkedIn group, and to have a blog. So my blog is entitled Serious Engineering, and it's sort of a mixture of stuff. I talk about general academic issues. I talk quite a bit about academic management. I write advice for students. I write about my opinions about the engineering profession and developments in the engineering profession. I write quite a bit about computer science, and I exercise my previously indicated inclination to facetiousness by the odd humorous piece that I put up. It's built quite a significant user base in this elapsed year. It's had about 500,000 page views, and because it's a single page blog, that's probably looks at individual blog reads, running at the moment at about upwards of 70,000 page views a month, which is roughly the same as the registered circulation of the Spectator and the New Statesman. So it gives you an indication of the reach that these sort of things can get. It's pretty bursty, so if I get a highly shared item, it spikes and then sort of dies down exponentially, again back to a base. And I'll talk a little bit about the base later on, taking into account earlier comments about not taking your statistics too seriously. Difficult though that is to do. I post once a week, pretty religiously, and by blogging standards, my posts are really quite long. Usually, about 700 words, sometimes upwards of 1,000. Round that, and I've established a personal style. My blog posts are texty, wordy. They're not highly linked, and they're relatively seriously crafted. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But it's a sort of I write it as me speaking to the readers of the blog, rather in the style of a newspaper comment column, and no sibling rivalry should be implied from that. I use Blogger as my principal platform, and I actually write most of it in. I write most of I wrote it on the tube, and on the weekends when I watch my younger son go skating, I wrap up warmly and I write my blog in the bleachers there, and I've got a personal domain associated with it, so it's prof.so. So if you want to find my blog, all you need to do is type into the address bar prof.so. Interestingly enough, .so is the domain for Somalia, who are selling off domains cheaply. So I can honestly say that I'm the only person who's had service interrupted because their domain's been taken over by real pirates, not just your everyday internet pirates. I alert people to my blog by tweeting out pointers to my blog. I don't tend to try and pimp my blog too much, but I certainly use that. I also post it on my relatively little used Facebook page, and on LinkedIn and on Google Plus. I don't tend to reply that much to the comments on the blog because I feel it's like monopolising the conversation. Though I might be tempted to correct their arithmetic if that was the problem. So what have I learned? The first thing is I've learned that blogging can be great fun. So setting aside the laudable things about aim and everything like that, why are we in this ridiculous underpaid profession? Well, we're doing it to have fun as well, aren't we? And blogging is a way to have intellectual fun, and but it takes time and commitment. I won't disguise it from you. A blog post that I'm proud to put out. I mean, they vary. They vary obviously. Facetiousness comes slightly easier to me than thought. But a good blog post will take 2-3 hours to write at that length. So it's a serious commitment of concentrated time. I've learned that you have to develop a style you believe in, and your style's going to evolve over the time, and that has to do with the fact that blogging is a personal act. It's an act of intellectual engagement. It is actually, in that way, rather like good teaching. You can only do good teaching if you engage on a personal basis, and that means you actually have to reveal something of yourself, which some people find a bit uncomfortable. So I have done a variety of things. I've blogged about issues that are somewhat uncomfortable for me from a management point of view. Type of decisions I've had to make, and I've blogged about things like my father's death and my reactions to that. But I don't think I could have done other than that. I don't think that people would read me if they didn't feel that I was seriously engaging, particularly given that I'm writing matters of opinion. If you're writing matters of opinion, you have a duty to sort of put yourself out there a bit. So there's another thing I've learned, which is what you want to write and what others want to read may not necessarily be the same thing. I mean, I know how to write things to be to get large numbers of shares and to be read, but they're not always the things I want to that I want to write, and so I try and basically have a mixture of things that I think my readers want. I know, for example, if I write advice for PhD students, it's very heavily picked up. I know that's what readers want, but it isn't always what I want to write. And so you have to get that mixture right. You need to be sensitive to the interests and needs of your readers. When people are spending time, they're coming to you. You need to reward them. And people on the internet, you build these big figures because it's an instrumental medium. People are using it to achieve a purpose, and you must respect their purposes and their need to acquire information and so on. That's why they're sharing, that's why they're reading. But you need to balance it with your own aims and goals and purpose, and it's a balance. You need to make your if you want to be read, you need to make it easy to be shared. And I think that's a lesson of the earlier talk, which is you want to make things that are appealing to share. And that's important. This month I wrote an article, which was I wrote a post in this week's post, which was 5 computer science ninja arts. Okay, and I won't disguise from you that I knew that was going to be a title that made it easy to be shared, and it was quite a serious article about what I think is important in computer science, but I made it easy to share. You can build a base by using content that's shared, so that's easy to search for. So, for example, I get regularly, a couple of 100-page views every week from people searching for an article that I wrote very early on in the things, which is top 10 best engineering books. And you search on Google, I think it probably comes up for best engineering books. It'll come up at the top, and that just builds a base of content that people are read, and keeps your blog lively and brings new viewers also to some of the other content you have, because I always only tweet out not an article link unless somebody specifically requests something, but a link to prof.so. My use of other medium to transmit things means that blogging is part of a social media ecosystem. My blog couldn't exist, I think, without the Twitter, the Google Plus, the LinkedIn are all part of it. In other words, I don't think you can say, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. I think you have to sort of think about the ecosystem that you want to do. Otherwise you can write a blog and nobody will read it because they won't be aware of it and they won't have had an opportunity to share things. Post consistently, and post consistently when your audience is about. For reasons that I don't understand at all, my audience seems to be most active at 11 o'clock on a Sunday, on a Monday morning. It seems to me a most ridiculous time when people would read blogs. Most implausible time, but it is. It may be partly because I tend to myself post on a Sunday, because that's what the life of a UCL professor is. You can find that data out by using various of the analytics tools. You need to decide about linking and monetization. I don't link much. Linking increases your searchability, both in inbound and outbound links. As I said, I tend to write articles. I explicitly don't monetize, even though I recommend a book. I don't, for example, provide a monetized Amazon link or anything like that. Because I do link this to my academic role, and also I think it damages one's credibility. You can do it. I'm not saying anything to people that that do a blog of my scale is probably worth a bit, particularly as it's our targeted audience, but I don't do it. I've mentioned about thinking about how you want to handle comments. I have a backlog of ideas. I keep a storage thing of ideas for blogging on, and I think if you're scrabbling around every week trying to think desperately what can I write, that's not a good situation to be in. So you need to sort of keep a notepad and note down things that you feel very strongly about, or that you think are worthwhile saying. I believe that you need to, if we're academics, I believe you need to take the craft of writing seriously. I think blogs are a written medium. I think that it pays, it's well. I mean, John's going to speak later, has written some very nicely crafted blogs, are very good models for this sort of things. I think it's important to also take, depending on your platform choice, the fonts, the illustration and other things like that seriously. If you want to do it, you've got to do it well, in my opinion. Obviously, there are new options to explore. I haven't explored them, I want to. Video blogging and SoundCloud type audio blogging. I know, for example, Steve Caddick has played with that idea, and I think they're things worthwhile. Some consideration, relatively underrepresented at UCL. It might be something that's worth doing. My last closing comment. This is the was a quick wordle of my blog. My blog to date, and so you can see roughly the sort of things that I blog about. It then came to my notice that that word there, work, was very large, and that's life over there. And that's a solid measure of, a distressingly solid measure of the way I spend my time. I'm not going to show that at home. Well, what would any blogger say in conclusion? You've got to read my blog. It's prof.so.